one of them. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the January 3rd, 2024 meeting of the Daytona Beach City Commission. We're delighted to have each of you with us. At this time, I would ask that Ms. LaMagna review the, or give us a roll call.
Commissioner Henry?
Present.
Commissioner Reed?
Here.
Commissioner Paris?
Here.
Commissioner Strickland?
Here.
Commissioner May? Here. Commissioner Cantu? Here. Mayor Derek L. Henry?
Here. This time, we will have the invocation led by Commissioner May, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Commissioner Henry. Please rise for the invocation and pledge.
Thank you, everybody, for taking the time out of your schedules to join us this evening. As usual, we come together to make wise decisions, kind decisions, and treat each other fairly. Oftentimes, it's a challenge to do these things, but as a group, collectively, hopefully, we can come to that. Once again, thank you, everybody, for joining us, and we hope to have a good evening, a thoughtful evening in union with each other, and welcoming the new year in a calm way.
Amen. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. We're going to move on to item number 4, which is approval of the minutes of the December 6, 2023 City Commission meeting.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. This time, we will have our agenda approval. If there are any changes, our city manager will address them.
Yes, Honorable Mayor, Commissioners, we're asking to continue item 8B, which is City Manager's Office approval of a lease between the Daytona Regional Chamber of Commerce and the City of Daytona Beach from the consent agenda to the January 17th meeting. We want to make sure there were questions that came in from our elected officials, that this partnership, that you have all of the information necessary to make the best decision. So we'll continue that item. We're adding item 8G, City Manager's Office, Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Fund Distribution, $1,000 Halifax Urban Ministries, Inc., Barracks of Hope from Commissioner Stacy Cantu, $10,000 sponsorship to Cultiview, Inc. from Commissioner Paula Reed, and $1,000 Martin Luther King Jr. Celebration of Florida, Inc. Commissioner Paula Reed as well. That concludes the agenda changes.
I move to accept the agenda changes with the said, the agenda with the said changes.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any questions or comments? All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, we have no presentations this evening, so we're going to move on to item number 7, which is citizen comments. During this time, citizens have the opportunity to address the City Commission on any item on the consent agenda. Our first speaker is John Nicholson, and on deck is Jenny Nazak.
John Nicholson, 413 North Grandview Avenue. I had 3 items, A, B, and F. A, I've got answered. B is pulled, so I'll go to F. I understand that you're working on the docks themselves, but the rest of the marina needs some work. The landscaping needs some work. If you've noticed that the little canvas coverings as you enter every single wharf is either torn to shreds, black, ugly. Is there a way of them going and getting everything nice and neat and clean? I mean, it really is, I'm told, the top 3 marinas on the East Coast, and it's not getting that anymore. So I'm asking you to extend this to include all the rest of the marina to make it as clean and neat as possible. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Jenny Nazak.
Back 501 Harvey. That has to be good luck. 2 JNs in a row to kick off the new year. Happy New Year, everybody. Let's see real quick. First quarter budget, item 8A. I don't really have much to say about it as an expert, but in general, people can always cut the budget. So I will trust you guys, but I'm just saying, if you all ever need help cutting a budget, I'll be right there, okay? 9A, body piercing. We shouldn't be micromanaging stuff that much, so it's cool, it's fine, whatever a business wants to be if it's legal. And then 9B, Hallmark Heritage, that's fine, But we need to make the landscaping more natural and less artificial. Did I speak on some wrong?
Yeah, you went out on, we went
Oh
off
my
the
God.
consent.
You can have another turn.
Yeah,
I
you,
am so sorry. That's it.
when you-
All right.
That's all right.
You signed up for that one too.
Oh, God, I get so confused about all
You,
this
you
stuff.
didn't know your little handwriting there.
Yeah, my little handwriting. Love you guys. That's
Okay.
And those were my only 2 speakers for the consent agenda.
Do we have a motion? Motion to approve? And second by Commissioner May, motion by Commissioner Reed. All right, all those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
We're going to move on to item number 9, which is our public hearings. And item 9A is Growth Management and Planning Department Body Piercing Land Development Code Text Amendment. This is an introduction of an ordinance on first reading public hearing. An ordinance amending Land Development Code Tables 5.2.8.2, 5.2.8.3, and 5.2.8.4 to add body piercing establishment as a permitted use in all zoning districts where tattoo establishments are permitted. Amending LDC Section 5.2.b.22 to remove prohibitions of body piercing establishments. Repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith and providing an effective date. And I do have speakers on this item. I have, our first speaker is John Nicholson, and on deck is Jenny Nazak.
Of course.
John Nicholson, 413 North Grandview Avenue. The last time this came up, I guess, was in the 1990s, when back then piercing and tattooing had a very negative connotation, and the city of Daytona Beach didn't want to have any tattoos or piercing because it would be a negative image for the city. Times have changed. About a year and a half ago, we changed the tattooing, and we went from 0 to, I guess, 5 on the beach side. So I'm anticipating that we will go from 0 to between 10 and 20 piercings. It gets to the point where it gets old. So whenever we do this, when we've not had anything for a while, let's try to restrict it to as few places as possible. And then over time, like we did with the lighting, we didn't want LED lighting, and then we changed it. Let's not go hog wild on these piercings, so they're not everywhere in its brothers. We had enough problem with T-shirts. Every time you turn around, there's another T-shirt shop. We don't want it with piercing as well. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Jenny Nazak, and on deck is Robert Howard.
Jenny Nazak, 501 Harvey. I mean, I'll probably never get a tattoo or a piercing at my age, but you never know. But I think we should be able to let the marketplace deal with that stuff with small businesses. I think a centrally planned economy, first of all, it's got to be a lot of work planning a bunch of stuff like that. One time I read a thing that was like the master vision for the city, and they were like, a florist can be here, a florist can't be here. I'm like, let's just let stuff be where it is and sort itself out. I think things will sort themselves out, and there'll be competition. Like, let's say a new piercing parlor comes in, and then another one falls off because they're not competing as much. I mean, I think that's okay. I think that's all right. I mean, as long as they're legal businesses. Thank you.
Thank you.
And our next speaker is Robert Howard.
Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen, the City Commission, it's been about a year since I was up here. It's nice to see you all again. So you got our new city attorney in play and a new city clerk. Anyway, I'm 132 South Atlantic Avenue, Daytona Beach. owner of Studio 21 Tattoo. I appreciate your time and consideration on this matter and this first reading tonight. Not only will it increase revenue for my company, but it will create more jobs, and it will also keep revenue within our area instead of me sending it out like to the shores and other places that actually have been allowing piercings for a long time. And I had spoken with Rose Askew. She's been phenomenal. Like, she is amazing. She's helped me out a lot with this process. And she said originally the way she remembers it is that the reason it was prohibited in the past, and I believe she said 1993, don't quote me on that, but I know it's right around that time period, is that there were t-shirt shops that were doing illegal piercings inside the studios, inside their businesses. So that's why it became prohibited completely. And I guess some of them were doing tattoos as well. So, and she assured me, John, that was a very good point there, that we don't want 20 places doing piercings. And she assured me that the way it's going to be worded is that we'll have to be attached to a tattoo studio. That they just can't say, oh, I'm a t-shirt shop and I want to do piercings over here on the side. It doesn't go together, so she assured me of that. That's pretty much it. If anybody's got any questions, I'd be happy to answer. I know it's highly regulated with the health department. I love the way they regulate it. And as you guys know me from the tattooing thing, I helped get tattooing and piercings legalized in Indiana. And then, of course, I was here for that entire thing for tattoos here. So I'm quite knowledgeable and was a medic at one time. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
And our final speaker is William Bitteroff.
I gotta hold it up because I'm used to leaning down. My friend told me don't lean down. But with the the body piercing I urge you all to think of it this way. It's something that's really important to our community. We might as well have it here, like the gentleman said, than have it down on the shores, because I'm all about Daytona. I love Daytona Beach shores, but this is Daytona, and this is my city. The other thing is, I've had a lot of friends. I don't have any tattoos, but I have a lot of friends that like tattoos. And hopefully they get the piercings and all in Daytona, and we can all prosper from it and something positive on our street. And be more small business friendly, and be known for being small business friendly. So people will come from all around, all other states in the United States, say, I want to start my business up in Daytona because they're the easiest people to deal with to open up my small business. It's just something for all to think about. That's why I love this city, and everybody has an equal chance, whether you're into piercings, tattoos, or whatever you're into. You like football, basketball, we're all treated equal here. And I love this city. And this is off term, but I like your hair, by the way, Paula. It looks really nice. But it's off the hang. I noticed it from when I came in, but I had to say it. It slipped out. But anyway, Happy New Year, and God bless you all.
Happy New Year.
That was our final speaker on this item. Are there any questions or comments from the City Commission on this item?
I do have one. Because it says to add body piercing as permitted use in all zoning districts where tattoo establishments are permitted. Does that mean only in tattoo parlors, or could they open up just a piercing only if it were an area where tattoos were permitted? Dennis?
Yeah, I can take it, Ben, thank you. Dennis Mrozek, Planning Director. It doesn't have to be in a tattoo parlor. It can be a standalone location that can just do the body piercing, but it's only in a district where the tattoos
are
would be
permitted.
permitted.
Okay.
What we see is we're probably going to see them both in the same building. It's the way it usually works.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Dennis, what is the zoning for that?
The zonings that would permit that, got it in here in the books. That will be added to the BR2 zoning district, to the M5 zoning district, to the RDB5 zoning district, RDD7, and RDM3. So 3 redevelopment areas, the M5, and then the BR2. The body piercing was already permitted along with tattoos in the BA zoning district.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions? Got a motion? Got a second?
No. We're going to the second public hearing and final action is January
Oh, that's my
17th.
bad.
Yep.
All right.
Moving on to item 9B, it's Public Works Department, approval of the preliminary and final plat for Hallmark Heritage Development. This is a resolution public hearing. A resolution approving the preliminary and final plat for the Hallmark Heritage Development on 52.75 plus or minus acres located west of Williamson Boulevard and north of Strickland Range Road, authorizing the city manager to sign the final plat and to permit recordation thereupon meeting certain conditions precedent and providing an effective date.
We have a motion from Commissioner Henry and a second from Commissioner Cantu.
Okay. I do have Corey Brown here for any questions, and I have one speaker, Jenny Nazak.
9B. All right.
Do you want to speak?
Corey, Jenny?
Jenny Nazak, 501 Harvey. I tend to be supportive of addition of multifamily development, so I tend to support this. And hopefully the landscaping will be kind of like natural. And that's all.
Okay. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Happy New Year. For the record, my name is Corey Brown with Storch Law Firm, 420 South Nova Road, Daytona Beach. Available for questions, and I also wanted to clarify that there's a 50-foot landscape buffer pursuant to the PUD agreement. But if you have any questions, myself and the project engineer, representative of the property owner here.
All right, no questions? Okay, okay. We have a motion and a second. If there are no other questions, all those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, we're going to move on to item 9C, which is Growth Management Planning Department, University Transition Redevelopment Midtown. This is an ordinance on second reading, public hearing. An ordinance amending Land Development Code, Table 5.2.A.3 and Section 5.2.B to add retail sales and service uses and residential uses as permitted principal uses to the RDM4 Redevelopment Midtown University Transition Zoning District, subject to certain use-specific standards, revising the intensity and dimensional standards table from RDM4 zoning district to add duplexes to the single-family residential column, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date.
So moved.
We have a motion from Commissioner Reed and a second from Commissioner May.
And I don't have any speakers on this item, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Do I have any questions from the commission?
No questions.
All right.
I'd just like to thank the manager for moving on this as quickly as he did.
All righty. All right, all the motion and a second. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, we'll move on to item 9D, which is the Growth Management Planning Department, South Grandview Satellite Parking Large-Scale Comprehensive Plan Amendment. This is an introduction of an ordinance on first reading, but a public hearing. An ordinance adopting a large-scale comprehensive plan amendment in accordance with Chapter 163, Part 2, Florida statutes, with regard to 1.25 plus acres of property generally located along the east side of South Grandview Avenue between Kemp Street on the north and Fifth Avenue on the south, amending the future land use element Neighborhood B development policy to impose limitations on development of the property referenced above, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date. I do have Mr. Rob Merrill here on behalf of the applicant for any questions, and I do have one speaker, Mr. John Nicholson. It's a public hearing.
John Nixon, 413 North Grandview Avenue. I'm not opposed to the project itself, but at the planning board meeting, there were a lot of discussion on whether the garage should be that height, that decor, et cetera. It doesn't match the neighborhood whatsoever, and that was a major concern. And secondly, on the storage, there is one finger, I don't know if you've got it on the map, that kind of juts out to Coach Street, and you would have these 8 to 10 foot walls right next to the property. There wouldn't be any setbacks. So you would be looking out your bedroom window at an 8 foot or 10 foot wall, solid wall, because that's the back end of the storage areas. If you see that little finger to the right, that fits right directly across from the pool at the streamline, it's not large enough for a storage facility on both sides, or even one side. So the residents would prefer a parking garage that fit to the neighborhood, which is only a facade look. They don't like the height, but we had planned 30 years ago to have parking garages in that area. So I don't oppose something that we've known for 30 or 40 years that it was going to go in anyway. So, but I would absolutely like to have it match the neighborhood with a small town or a small village look to it, rather than this massive, tall building. The top 2 floors are basically not necessary. They're just decorative. So there can be a way of making it fit to the neighborhood, being a little bit smaller and a little bit more compact so that it fits the neighborhood. And both the Ocean Deck is happy because it's got the parking it needs, and the residents are happy it's got something that fits into the neighborhood. Thank you.
Are those additional speakers?
Yeah, I was expecting something different.
Okay, our next speaker is Ann Ruby, and on deck is Jenny Nazak.
Ann Ruby, 137 Park Avenue. Every meeting that we've been at, and we've been at them all, right from the neighborhood meeting through planning board, beachside redevelopment board, people don't want the parking garage. It's not the best use for this site, and they're presenting it as this will, as a surface lot, be a public parking and good for the community. Unless they make it a 24/7 automated gate parking lot, it's not going to be good for the community. It's going to be used for his overflow parking, open only sporadically. So I think this is a great idea if he wants to turn it into a surface lot with a gate and keep the lot clean and pretty. Why not? But to present this as a community good, as a relief for the parking issues in the area, it doesn't make sense unless if it's just going to be used as overflow parking with a chain across it and some guy comes out with a chair to pass out tickets when they need overflow parking. Doesn't make any sense. And the parking garage as a straight parking garage is not the best use for that area. It just isn't. Who knows what's going to be the best use in the near future? We don't know. Keep it so that it could become mixed use by making this a surface lot only on this PD and not a parking garage and then a surface lot and then a parking garage. So I really hope you can pull the parking garage out of this and make it useful for the neighborhood and useful for the entire area with a good plan. Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker is Jenny Nazak, and on deck is Sandy Murphy.
Jenny Nazak, 501 Harvey. Yeah, there is right now so much empty land just sitting there. Why can't people park? There's right down the street from that, there is a fenced off vacant parking lot that now there's a big fence around it so you can't even walk down the street. And it's always empty. There's never any cars there. And now we're going to build a parking garage. Now, in general, I am in favor of parking structures in an urban area that has a lot of shops and other developments and there's no room. So build up, make a parking garage. But right now, we don't have enough businesses and we're gonna put more parking when there's already a bunch of empty land to be parked on. There's so many empty lots. We need to share the parking. And I noticed that when I first moved here. And I'm like, why is there all this empty land? Why don't we have more shops and things? Let's put some stuff there. All right, so I've lived in Tokyo and all different places and traveled around. But here in Florida, I've been to Key West. And there's shops that are the size of this thing here, a little bitty shop where you can get your Cuban coffee. And then you walk to the next place and you can have a little drink of something or a meal over here. And they're chock a block. Do you know how hard it is to park there? Guess what? People do not care. If a person has to drive, they pay $30 for parking, and they do it because it's cool over there. There are some parking lots, but basically you have to get really organized. If you want to bring a car to Key West, you got to really plan in advance, and people do plan in advance. But also, people pack those businesses. Everybody's on foot, or on bus or on wheelchair or however they're getting around, and it's packed with shops. I want to see Daytona Beachside jam-packed with little shops and less jam-packed with more parking. Businesses attract people. Beach Street's getting really attractive, so there's more people getting attracted to it because there's more stuff going on. So just some food for thought. And this is a really wild, radical thing that some of you guys may not have heard of, but maybe some people have. Maybe Dennis has heard of it. is many cities are abolishing parking minimums in core tourist areas and downtown areas. And it may sound counterintuitive, but it leaves more space for business development. And then the people and the marketplace sort out the parking. People get there, some people still get there by car, some people take the bus, what have you. But we should consider abolishing parking minimums and like that. Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker is Sandy Murphy, and on deck is Amy Pyle.
Good evening, Sandy Murphy, 136 Park Avenue. I think Jenny makes some very good points and what I hear from what she's saying is we don't really have a plan yet for how we want to address parking in the commercial areas of our city. That's something that we need some investigation, some study, rather than just throwing something in here, there, and everywhere. A parking garage where there's no transition between the commercial and that beautiful residential area behind it, I think that would be criminal. Those folks have put a lot of money into improving the neighborhood, and you would just essentially be putting them behind a brick wall. So I think that should absolutely be off the table. When you talk about surface lots, I think Amy has probably shared with you, if you look at the Bike Week plan, there are all kinds of surface lots that are used during Bike Week. And we really need to think about how we can incentivize the use of those lots year-round, rather than try to convert land that could be used for a higher purpose to just go for parking. So it doesn't belong in the transition area. We need to study our needs before we go adding some substantial amounts of parking. No garage. It would be an insult to that community. Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker is Amy Pyle, and on deck is Summer Hayes.
Amy Pyle, 136 South Grandview. I actually thought I wasn't going to be able to speak on this, so I didn't do one of my usual dissertations. So this will be a little bit off the cuff. But I had, so with regards to the satellite parking garage, I am definitely opposed. The redevelopment and planning board both denied approval. I emailed you earlier about some other things that I'm going to speak about during public comment, but I will make a really detailed statement in March when this comes up for a vote. Until then, I will speak for all the residents that I know that surround this property. They oppose it. The size is too much for adjacent to residential properties. One of the key issues that's brought up is a need for parking in that area for businesses that just can't survive without it. But this can be addressed, and I sent an idea, a suggestion, that the parking on South Grandview, which is a big wide street, if you could set up metered parking there, you would have a lot of public parking. Maybe even 50 spaces if you use both sides, and you could allow resident passes to use it. Nobody parks in front of my house ever. So that just shows you right there that it's available. And across the street is also available. So why not look into that rather than, sacrifice this valuable residential property that could be activated as something, great for the future of the area to make more parking only. And, I'm going to talk about some other ideas in public comment, but I just want to make sure that, I get the point across that there are other options, and until we look at that, we really shouldn't lock this in as a parking garage. So I don't oppose a surface lot with good management if it is available to the public all the time. Right now, I'd ask that you take a look at the lot. There's a realtor sign that's broken down. It's been there for, since it was up for sale. And now there's pink plastic tape around it that's supposed to keep people from driving up on it. There needs to be something better to kind of keep that lot from looking kind of blighted and, downtrodden. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our final speaker is Summer Hayes.
Summer Hayes, 124 South Grandview Avenue, and I just oppose the parking garage. This flat surface would be wonderful. Thank you.
Rob Merrill for the record, 149 South Ridgewood. At least I get to stand up and say something about Paula's new hairdo. So awesome job, Paula. I mean, following this guy, good job. All of the comments from the folks here tonight are ones that we've had previously, and we've had actually some input that resulted in us making some plans, some changes to our plans, including, I think, Jenny's idea about native plants, which we've agreed to do, as well as not using asphalt for the surface parking. I've got Ken Botts here. I think you guys know Ken from the Ocean Deck. He's been here for many, many years. He's one of our successful local restaurant businesses. Restaurants don't always last forever in Daytona, and he's one that has. So he's invested here. He's rooted here in the community. His biggest need at this moment is the surface parking. He has a problem right now that exists. We're hoping that as things happen on ISB, you guys are doing a lot of work over there right now, and we're hoping that lot that's down at the northwest corner of A1A and ISB is going to get developed with something. We talked about Publix at some point in time, et cetera. At that point, I think it's going to be timely for the structure to be built. So we wanted to entitle the structure, and we hired Brian Fredley, who did, I think, a magnificent job of the architecture on it, if you've looked at the pictures. And interestingly, he also did the structure that's on Glenview and Grandview, which is north of Seabreeze. And you guys might remember, I guess it's been maybe 4 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, it is the parking structure that was built for the Marriott Renaissance, which is still under construction. We had a lot of the same comments for that project. It's about, I want to say it's another 2 stories taller than the ones being proposed here, and it's immediately adjacent to several houses in the Seabreeze area, which is also a very nice neighborhood. When that happened, the project was built, and several folks, I'm not naming names, but some of them were in the room, called me and said, wow, it really turned out the way you said it was going to. And so we hired the same architect who did that, who everybody loved, and now it's smaller. So you guys have been talking about, I mean, you know, I've been doing this planning and zoning stuff for 35 years in Daytona Beach. You've been talking about parking structures on the beach side as long as I've been around. So Mr. Botts over here figured, okay, that sounds like that's what everybody wants. And if I can, you know, suit that need, I would do it. But certainly the need has to be there. So it's not there at this moment, we don't think. So that's why we're planning ahead. And so sort of the 2 compartments here are the surface lot, which I think you've heard a lot of people say they don't have a problem with. I think everybody has. And then the parking structure, which, you know, understanding the context of the single family area, but also understanding the zoning background on this one, different from the other one that was successfully built much bigger than this and a very similar posture. It could be an apartment building. It could be an office building. It's got the residential professional zoning on it right now. So what we're doing, I think, is way less intense, if you will, than what could be there. And that's always something to consider. And when we talked about the parking structure on the other one, that's on the very similar situation just north of Seabreeze, everybody was worried that it was going to be something that was bothersome. In fact, you know, it's a very, parking structures are pretty quiet use, especially when it's a valet parking setup like we have here. So Ken does valet parking, and he does it successfully, and it doesn't seem to bother anybody because he's got an existing service lot just to the north of this property that we're talking about tonight. So I probably said too much already, but I'll say again, great job, Paula, on the hairdo. And any questions that you guys have for me, or Joe Hopkins is also here, our civil engineer.
Would they be willing to have it open 24 hours to the public?
Ken, I'll let you get up and talk about the idea about I don't think our plan was to have it be open for 24 hours, but I'll let him speak to that. He filled out his form just in case. I'll turn it in for you.
Kind of scribbled on because Rob couldn't figure out which line to put it on or what number to put on it.
You guys changed the form.
Ken Botts, 127 South Ocean Avenue, which is the Ocean Deck's address. there's been a lot of information passed back and forth at all these different board meetings. We have an existing lot on Kemp and Coates. It's been there for about 25 years. It's a surface lot. We were required to put that there when we put the second story on the ocean deck. So growth necessitated more parking spaces. We also operate in it, and again, that lot that's back there is primarily on a day-to-day basis for employee parking and for customer parking that they know it's there. They don't mind parking their car back there and walking across A1A. Some of them like to stay out of the hustle and bustle of what might be going on at any given Friday, Saturday, or Sunday at the ocean deck, because it does get busy. And I've shared with some of you that at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the afternoon at the ocean deck on a Saturday or a Sunday, I don't have any parking spaces on the east side of A1A. Not self-park, not valet parking. It just doesn't exist. So that's where the need comes for us for a surface lot. We've been patiently growing and getting busier and busier year after year. And that piece of property came available on Grandview, and we saw the opportunity to buy it and use it for our needs. Now, to go past that, I understand from working in that neighborhood for 35 years that a lot of those homes there, because they are permitted parking all along Grandview, a lot of them don't have enough parking spaces for the multi-unit uses that occur there on Grandview. And to Amy's point, in front of her house, along that whole piece of property that we have in question, the city has painted that yellow, and it's been that way for a decade. I even got a parking ticket there one day because I parked my car there so that I wouldn't take up a parking space in my lot, and got a ticket. There hasn't been houses on any of those parcels for over a decade to 2 decades, a long, long time. And it looks like it's a park. Honestly, anybody that's purchased property there in the last 10 years thinks they live across the street from a park. It's vacant, it's grass, it's mowed, it's cut, it's taken care of. The question that's been asked about, okay, the surface lot that we would put there, I would be more than happy to keep it open 24 hours a day. More than happy. And I'd be more than happy to go on the record right now to say that any of those parcels on South Grandview can have a parking permit sticker for a vehicle. So yes, I can keep it open 24 hours a day. Yes, it will be cleaned every single day, just like my paved lot is on the corner of Coates and Kemp. So if you have any questions of me that go above and beyond that, I can help you with it. The parking garage, as Rob explained, it's not an immediate need for me, not an immediate need at all. But we thought it'd be a great idea to put it in front of you so that you knew that moving forward in the planning that you're doing, that I'm willing with our private money to build a garage there. I'm not asking for public money. I'm not asking for any kind of aid from the city or the county. We need parking. We know that that area is going to build up around us. It's impossible to effectively take an oceanfront piece of property, which are available right on the 100 block of Ocean Avenue. It's not a highest and best use to put a parking garage on any of those parcels. It's oceanfront property. Could I put that there? Sure, if I had super deep pockets or won the lottery tomorrow, sure. But that piece for us to use right now is the best and highest use for us. And the options that the residents have presented is asking for someone to come and develop it differently than I would. I'm ready to develop it today, and I'm ready to grow with it with our private money when the need arises.
Would you be willing to take the garage component out of what we're discussing right now, and then later on, 3, 4, however many years down the road or how far down the road to come back to us for the garage? Just do the surface lot at this time?
I would love to do that. And Rob can speak better to that because he understands the question at hand with the comprehensive plan versus.
What Ken's saying is he'd prefer to have it, if you want to put it on a schedule, Ken, like you don't do it until 4 years or 3 years. I know we've had some discussions about that. I think he's okay to do it. He doesn't want to come back through this whole process again, but if that's what you want him to do, I think that, that's up to him. So the idea is we either do the garage now or we don't. If we don't do it now, we got to come back and do it all over again.
Okay.
We prefer not to do it all over again.
I know you would, but the neighbors would prefer nothing be there, but they would be much happier if it was just the surface lot at this time and then you come back.
I would hope they would prefer that. It's very passive compared to what could be there.
I personally like the parking garage, and I know the residents don't want the parking garage right away. So could we put something in the PD where it extends it, that there won't be no parking garage for 2 to 3 years, and so we can see?
We certainly can put whatever you guys agree to in the PD agreement. It's binding, as you know. It's
Okay, and another thing, I did hear some comments, John and a few others, the storage units. I personally don't think the storage units should be with the parking garage.
Okay.
Would we be able to take that out of the PD?
Well, I mean, everything's negotiable.
Okay.
At the end of the day, the storage units were really, they're the tail wagging the dog to some extent, but it's an odd-shaped piece of property because of the fact that there's a couple of houses on the east side. That made it an odd shape. So it allowed us to have an area where we could do that, and we thought it would be useful to the neighborhood. I mean, typically these storage facilities, if they're done properly, are secure, and they're a place for people to get their junk out of the side yard or the backyard or the garage, and it cleans places up and less code enforcement, et cetera. I've done them all over the county, and they've been successfully done. They're very quiet, but if you guys don't like it, and you think it's a bad use there, all of this is up to you guys.
But, I mean, the property's been vacant. We need a parking space, and it's his property. I actually like it. I mean, and I actually like the parking garage, but I understand what they're saying, so maybe we could put something in the PD that he doesn't start the parking garage for a couple years.
I think we could certainly do that. Let's see where the rest of the yeah, that's
yeah.
Because I'm less enthused about it. I think it's just best that we got to respect the residents at some point. And we've been very friendly to business and very happy with the success that the Ocean Deck is experiencing, and would like to do things to help them to continue. But we have to say at some point, this is not a permitted use at this time. So from my perspective, at some point, you got to say that what the residents feel really, really matters. So I'll hear from others and then try to get some consensus one way or the other. Anyone else? I heard Commissioner Reed over here.
I think that I would prefer that if we were to do the parking lot, because we don't know what's going to happen on that corner where Shell's was. But I don't like 2 or 3 years. When I spoke with them, I asked for about 5 years of a delay on a parking deck. Definitely the surface lot, it's needed. I did want to ask though, if it's 24 hours a day, how are you, KB, going to monitor that, or are you going to charge a fee for that? How do you know that there are Ocean Deck people that are using it? That's something else that you'd have to give some consideration to if it were a 24/7 hour lot.
It was Monica's idea.
I know.
The 24-hour thing.
You're getting paid, right? The big bucks to be the lawyer and figure it out?
Well, yeah, so I don't know what happens after, I go to bed at 9.
Ouch.
The paved parking that we currently have and have used for over 25 years on Coates and Kemp is open 24 hours a day.
Okay, so you're already
it's lit. Again, all my employees are required to park over there because we don't have enough spaces on the east side of A1A. So there's constantly a flow of bodies from there to that current lot. And that current lot is steps away. If you're looking at it, it looks like they almost connect.
Yeah, I saw
So it'll be lit. There'll be cameras there, just like I have cameras at the Coates Kemp lot.
So you don't see a necessity for it to be monitored or for it to be ticketed? It would just be open 24/7 like your other
It
lots?
can be open 24/7.
But is that what you plan? Is that what you'd like?
I would
What
love
did
it to
you
be
thought?
that busy for me to keep it open 24/7.
Okay. All right.
During special events, for instance, most recent special event was Main Street being closed for New Year's Eve. Again, because a lot of that surface parking that's available on Main Street isn't always available when Main Street is doing events, because a lot of it's county operated. I get a lot of overflow of people wanting to park in that specific lot, whether it's employees or whether it's customers. So I'll put a guy in that lot and kind of direct people around. If they're looking for parking to go to Main Street, yes, they might get charged $5 or $10 to do that, but those
not on the
people can also get a little, it's almost like Disney dollars, where I'll give them a coupon to go spend at the ocean deck. And there's someone in that lot every single day cleaning it currently. And there's somebody looking at the grass lot, because I own that as well and don't want to come before a code enforcement board. It's clean, it's mowed, it's taken care of. Yes, there are pink strings going across. I don't want random cars just feeling they can drive right in there.
I'd be interested in also knowing why we painted the curb yellow. Why can't we use the actual Grandview Street? What? I would.
I know, but you're going off on a tangent.
Oh, well. That's just an addendum to my conversation.
I like that tangent, just saying.
But
Mr.
I'm in
Just do one
agreement
thing
with
at a
you. I'm in agreement with Commissioner Reed too. I mean, 4 to 5 years, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
This is a little complicated because we're talking about the comprehensive plan amendment right now, which is associated with the PD agreement that's on the agenda in as item 10A.
Right.
And most of what you're talking about, including operating hours for a garage,
Would be in the PD.
the logical place for that would be the PD. I think you probably could load into the comp plan a requirement that a garage wouldn't go into effect until date X.
Well, we could load in that
But-
it has to be done by PD, and then this is first reading,
Right.
transmittal.
Right.
And I will tell you that I'll stand back up when we get to the PD and say the same thing. We'll embed that into the PD so that that's the safeguard. It can be done, Ben, I think. And I think if you do this, this is not the adoption, it's the transmittal. And
Right.
so, you have the final ruling when it gets back.
This is going to become a more serious issue as if both of these items come back to you, because the comp plan amendment would only allow the property to be used for a garage, a structure, a parking lot, and public uses along with self-storage. So what that means is, if you adopt that comprehensive plan amendment and then don't adopt the PD, the uses of the property are very restrictive, and you'll likely have to approve some sort of PD because the comp plan won't match the PD. That's an issue for later as these things move together. I just really wanted to focus your attention on the fact that most of the conditions you're talking about and debating would be better placed in approval of the PD agreement, which is later on in this agenda.
So are you saying that it makes it more complicated to remove the parking garage right now? Is that what you're saying?
No,
What are you saying
I think
exactly,
that
in
all of the
layman's terms?
conditions you're talking about, delaying the construction of the parking garage, operating hours, which I want to address more with you when we're on the PD side of things, and the self-storage, you should, if you're of a mind to make a motion to condition approval on some of those restrictions, do that when approving the PD. The comp plan is more general. It just restricts the uses and it restricts the floor area ratio.
So you're not making a final decision on this one, bless you, in either event.
Right.
So I think if you were to advance this to the transmittal, we have a public hearing at the end of that, to
Right.
say yes or no. And in this case, if we don't fix the PD so it works, the way everybody wants it, you can say no to all of it, right? It's all discretionary.
So 9D is only for the comp plan,
Right.
correct? Okay.
And we're having a public hearing on 9D tonight because we're required to do that by state law because we have to have 2 public hearings on a comprehensive plan amendment, so. Either way, the comments are well taken, and I assume that based on those, you would want to go back and work up something with staff to present to the commission.
Exactly.
When
So
the public
between now
hearing
and second reading, which we don't know when that is because it's the transmittal, we'll come back with something in the PD that responds to all of the concerns and see how it works with you guys.
Well, I think you guys might want to give staff some sort of direction on what you want, but, you know, in terms of what you would agree to. I think you have 2 people over here who are agreeable to 5 years, in terms of, a parking garage. What would
Well,
please the majority?
you know, I think we had some real issues here with commissioners that, I'm not trying to start a war here, ladies, so, but that live a ways away from where this parking garage will be. And the residents would prefer the parking garage not to be approved right now. I mean, you know, with business the way it is nowadays, I mean, it could be really good the first year and go down the tubes in the second year or what have you. I would just like to see us do the surface lot. Be mindful of the wishes of the neighborhood and come back if you need to build the garage at a later date, please.
Can I ask a point of order, Mayor?
Yeah.
And it really, I guess it's to Ben as much as anything. I think we heard the businessman who's been here for 35 years say is he really needs that service lot right now. So what I'd hate to see happen is the baby be thrown out with the bathwater. If you guys are voting tonight, I would hope that there's some way, Ben, that we can compartmentalize the surface versus the garage piece of this. I'm not sure exactly how mechanically, but.
So the city's, if I can, the city's practice is to have this public hearing on first reading, not take a vote on this item or the PD, which doesn't have a public hearing tonight, until the second reading of the ordinances for both.
Right.
So we're still at a discussion stage.
Right.
But because we're creating a record here, and all of the record is during the discussion of the comp plan amendment at this point, I wanted to make sure that we also say for the record that a lot of the conditions that we're talking about would ultimately be put in on the PD side rather than the comp plan side.
Okay, and what I'm trying to say is it doesn't do you any good to go back and have a discussion and you don't know what these folks think. I believe that a surface parking lot, from what I'm hearing, would probably be agreeable. I don't think I've heard any objection to that. What I've heard objection to is approving and I don't think we have to approve things right now for 10 years down the road. I just don't think we have to do that personally. But if you're there, so I'm telling you right now, if there are 3 of you who are saying that, then that's the direction that you're going with the commission.
I've only heard 2.
I've only heard 2. So we need to hear from someone else so that a decision can be made, so staff doesn't come back. So, you know.
Just with the parking lot.
Okay. Commissioner May?
My preference is to start with the parking lot first.
Well, then there you have it.
Okay. We know what to do.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks.
If there's no more questions or comments on this item, the second public hearing and final action is set for March 6th. Okay, we're going to move on to item 10. And item 10 is our introduction of ordinances, and these are for City Commission comments and question only. Our first item, item 10A, is a growth management planning, South Grandview Satellite Parking Plan redevelopment. This is the introduction of the ordinance on first reading. An ordinance amending the zoning map of the Land Development Code to rezone 1.25 plus or minus acres of property generally located on the east side of Grandview Avenue, north of 5th Avenue, and south of Kemp Street from RP residential professional to PDRD, Plan Development Redevelopment, approving the South Grandview Satellite Parking Plan Redevelopment District Agreement to allow for a development of parking garage with accessory self-storage and/or surface parking lot, subject to certain conditions, authorizing the mayor and the city clerk to execute the agreement, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date. And are there any additional questions or comments from the commission?
No comments or questions?
Okay, the public hearing and final action is set for March 6th. Moving on to item 10B, the Growth Management Planning Department, 1219 Ruger Place, Plan Development General. This is an introduction of an ordinance on first reading. An ordinance amending the zoning map of the Land Development Code to rezone 0.225 plus or minus acres of property generally located on the east side of Ruger Place, south of Silver Beach Avenue, north of Bostwick Avenue, at 1217, 1219, and 1221 Ruger Place.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, I was just looking at the statutes, and I apologize. I think that the agenda item for 9D, which accurately described that, and this was the comp plan amendment for the satellite parking. We accurately described that this was a public hearing and on first reading, but under state law, there is a requirement that the commission approve the item for transmittal to the state, and there was no motion made on that. So I would request that the commission go back to that item, engage in a motion on first reading to transmit it to the state for review.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion from Commissioner Strickland, a second from Commissioner Cantu. It's clear on what the transmittal is?
The purpose of the transmittal is to comply with the state statute that requires state agency review of a large-scale comp plan amendment. It isn't an approval of the ordinance on the comp plan on its merits. It's an approval to transmit for review.
Okay.
Without the parking garage.
Yes, it's just.
Well, the ordinance on the comp plan only, and this is on page 165 of your agenda materials, it restricts the use of the property to a parking garage or structure, parking lot, and/or public uses with accessory structures, accessory uses for self-storage. It also restricts the floor area ratio. So that's the maximum development that would be allowed under the comp plan. That would not, if adopted by itself, allow for development of the property. There would still need to be a zoning of the property. You asked whether it would allow a parking garage. I think the better way to say is it wouldn't prohibit a parking garage.
It wouldn't prohibit a parking garage, but the final decision is made by us.
It is made by you through a rezoning, whether it's to a PD or a new zoning category that you create.
So, yeah, it has to come back to us. It doesn't.
And so does the comp plan amendment. This is just authorizing it to be transmitted to the state for review.
All right. It's just
I'm still so moved, I think.
Yeah, we have a motion and a second.
we have a motion and a second. All right. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
I'm going to move back to item 10B. An ordinance amending the zoning map of the Land Development Code to rezone 0.225 plus or minus acres of property generally located on the east side of Ruger Place, south of Silver Beach Avenue, north of Bostwick Avenue at 1217, 1219, and 1221 Ruger Place from SFR 5, Single Family Residential 5, to PDG, Plan Development General, approving the 1219 Ruger Place Plan District Agreement to memorialize the existing non-conforming 3-unit multifamily complex comprised of a duplex dwelling and a one-story garage apartment accessory dwelling unit on the property, subject to certain conditions, authorizing the mayor and the city clerk to execute the agreement, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date. And are there any questions or comments from the commission on this item?
Can I just get an explanation on how it would affect the 2 residential homes next door to it?
Good evening, Jessica Gow for the record, Cobb Cole Law Firm, 149 South Ridgewood Avenue, Daytona Beach, Florida. There are no changes proposed to the existing structure. So everything under this zoning already exists on the site. Part of it's been there since 1912, I think, and the addition was added in 1935, I want to say. Part of it's older than Cobb Cole, part of it's not. It's the only reason why I remember. So no changes are proposed. Even at planning board, there was a long discussion. We were going to add parking spaces in the front yard and pave that driveway, and the residents said they really didn't want parking in the front yard. They thought it would interrupt the flow, and so we've changed that condition to just say the driveway and parking will remain as it is. If it's functioned for almost 100 years, we have faith that it'll continue. So the only change is that we're adding some additional landscaping to kind of beautify the area.
So how would it affect the two residential homes that are next door? If they would want to change their zoning, would it allow for it?
Anyone can apply for a PD. It doesn't automatically impact or change that area. I think I'll defer to Dennis on this. There was a area-wide change on the land use scale in this area that you guys approved a few months ago. That may have been included, but this zoning is just for this parcel and wouldn't impact others.
Thank you, Jessica.
Thanks, Jessica. Dennis Mrozek, Planning Director. If you can go back one more slide on that one to the land use, you'll see that the land use of the subject property is retail, and that's where this multifamily use would be. The property to the south of it, that's a level 1 residential, and that would only permit a single family unit over there. So unless the land use were to change and the zoning were to change, then this is what you have.
With this zoning, can they do short-term rentals?
Can they use it for rentals?
Short-term rentals?
Not in this zoning district. Short-term rentals aren't permitted.
Commissioner, you're referring to the property to the south and asking whether they can do short-term rentals, or this property?
Property in question.
I don't believe either properties are permitted to have short-term.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. If there aren't any other questions or comments, the public hearing and final action on this item is January 17th. Okay, we're going to move on to item 10C. It's a Growth Management Planning Department Neighborhood Notice Requirements Land Development Code Text Amendment. This is an introduction of an ordinance on first reading. An ordinance amending Section 3.3 of the Land Development Code to modify procedure for neighborhood meetings subject to conditions, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date. And are there any questions or comments from the commission on this item? Okay, the public hearing and final action is set for January 17th. Okay, we don't have any administrative items. So that was our last agenda item on the agenda.
Commissioner Henry, we will begin public or commission comments with you.
No comments.
All right, Commissioner Reed. Nice
Happy New Year.
hairdo.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. All right. Commissioner Paris.
Happy New Year, and your hair looks great, Paula.
Your hair looks great, Paula.
I just wanted to answer some concerns that residents had about the seawall for the Silver Beach property that is on Silver Beach Avenue and A1A. We did have a staff case, and it has been sent to the owner, and the owner has put out a request for proposal for the seawall. So I just wanted to let everyone know. Also a reminder, Council on Aging does have a dining site Monday through Friday from 9:30 to 1:30 at the McHale Brown Center, which is right by our Dickerson Center. So please utilize it. Free lunch for those 60 and over, and they have activities too. It's a great way to get to meet other neighbors in different areas and meet people in your community. And looking forward to 2024, everybody. Thank you.
I was on Main Street on New Year's Eve. It was a lot of people. Looked like everybody was having a lot of fun, no problems. Excuse me, Paula?
You saw it.
But anyway, it was quite a nice gathering. I was only there for an hour and a half, 2 hours. But I read a thing not long ago about main streets. There's 11 of them that were in the article I read. The best main streets in Florida, there was 11. I sure would like to see our main street on that list at some point in the future, within the next year to 5 years. So Anyway, with that, Happy New Year, and I'll try to be nice next time I'm here.
You were nice. Go ahead, you did a good job tonight. Go ahead.
Looking forward to the year ahead. Thank you.
Wow. Commissioner Cantu?
Just want to say Happy New Year, and that's it.
All right, well, it is a new year. From the mayor's office, a list of 10 exciting things that happened in Daytona Beach in 2023. I posted this on Facebook. Riverfront Esplanade, completed. Not in any particular order. Mainland girls won its first basketball state championship. Mainland football won its first state championship in 20 years. Jackie Robinson Ballpark will receive significant upgrades. Tortugas will stay. Mayor's Literacy partners with to give 30,000 books away. Daytona Beach is 2024 top place to retire in one of the top places to retire in the United States, according to U.S. News and World Report. Community celebrated Miss Patricia Troutman, who taught for 50 years and who also retired on December 15th. So she taught for 50 years. They had a celebration. She retired quietly, went off into the sunset. We rededicated the remodeling of the Dickerson Center in the James Huger Park. We opened a new police substation on the beach side. We hosted the groundbreaking ceremony for East ISB, road reconstruction beautification, which has been one of our top priorities for the last 25 years. And I did not mention the partnership that is imminent with the Army Corps of Engineers. So with that being said, and so many more things, from trunk or treat, the seafood festival, there's 100 things to name, Santa Run, and many things we will name during the State of the City. Some we won't, but I'm saying all of that to say that 2023 was one hell of a year in Daytona Beach, and it is my hope and sincere prayer that 2024 will be even better. The work never ceases to be with us. We are grateful to be servants to this community. And with that being said, we will see if the city manager has any comments.
Yeah, I do want to just say one thing. As Commissioner Strickland stated, that I did go to the activities on Main Street, and I also had family and friends come from all over to Daytona Beach for New Year's Eve. And I often say to people that it's odd that the most issues or concerns I get are from the people that live here in Daytona Beach, about how it looks, how we experience the events that we have. But all of my family and friends that came to this area for New Year's Eve, I was trying to figure out really why were they coming. I wanted to go to them, but they came and they had probably the best time they ever could on Main Street, and they will be coming back. So when we look at what we do as our community, if we really want to take stock, you think about all the benefits that we have in Daytona Beach, that people want to come here. It's now time for us as residents, as city employees, as business owners, to talk about what's so great about Daytona Beach, because the rural really wants to hear it from us as well. And so, but Main Street, kudos on Main Street. It was more than and I'm normally in church the entire time, but we were out there and dancing, celebrating, listening to bands, music. It was a great event on Main Street. The sergeant saw me. They probably saw me. They thought I was a biker. The police officers kept looking at me, trying to figure out, like, is it you? Yeah, it's me. So we had a great time, and I applaud the Al Smith, but also our police department, Public Works, Traffic, Parks and Rec, to help make that a possibility in our redevelopment team. So it was good.
Sir? Any comments? No comments. Before we hear from residents, I will say this. We celebrated our anniversary, and of all the things that I wanted to do, which is never very much, Riverfront was where I wanted to be, because I wanted to experience the sensation of how our city is evolving with the person that I chose to spend the rest of my life with. And so Riverfront we got some stuff going on. So we'll hear now from the greatest citizens in the United States, the residents of Daytona Beach.
Our first speaker is John Nicholson, and on deck is Jenny Nazak. Bless you.
North Grandview Avenue. One thing of concern is at several of the meetings over the last 2 years, there's been concern over buildings on the beach side. They don't like the height. About 30 years ago, we had discussions in the 90s with regard to the height of buildings on the ocean. The question was, do we want it tall and narrow to allow for the maximum amount of sun on the beach, or do we want it short and wide and have no sun on the beach for our tourists? So the discussion ended with, we wanted it tall and narrow to have as much sun as possible throughout the day. As we've seen lately, they've been kind of short and wide, all right? So I think the commission should at some point reopen it and decide whether we still want tall and narrow like we have at the north end of the beach. The Island Crown, the Mediterranean. If you look just short of Bel Air Plaza, they're all tall and narrow with about 200 feet between buildings. If you look across the street from me, you have short and wide with 15 feet between the buildings. Personally, I would rather 200 feet between the buildings rather than 15 because we still are a tourist town. But I would rather you all discuss it and let staff know that when people come, they have a choice. If the residents no longer want tourism and they don't want sun on the beach, then it changes. So everything's up to change, and I think it's about time to discuss it so that our staff will know anybody coming in, they either do short and wide or tall and narrow, so we don't have to keep this argument every time there's a building proposed. We've turned down 8 projects on the beach side over the last 20 years, all right? Those properties would probably be, one property was $10 million a year in taxes. So if we give up $30 million a year, there's a lot Derek can do with $30 million bucks, all right? Secondly, Mr. Fieschi walked out of the room the last time I brought this up, but these are things that have come along and we don't know where they're at. There's supposed to be a remake of North Beach Street. I'd like to know where we're at that. Main Street is supposed to go through renovation. Where are we with that? East Side, in 2004, we lost 17 hotels. We've replaced 1. What are we doing with all the rest of the lots? Hopefully there's a couple coming down the pike that we can do. We're anticipating finishing A1A to the beach. I mean, not ISB to the beach. Then we'll go down A1A. If you go over Oak Ridge, those yellow signs look terrible. They're anticipating more of the yellow signs. If there's road crossing, there'll be hundreds of bollards at every intersection. I know they're for safety, but they look terrible. I think we need to discuss it.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jenny Nazak, and on deck is Amy Pyle.
This citizen communication time is something that I consider some of the most difficult but most important communication that I do. And almost always I sit down and say to myself, oh my God, you sounded so dumb up there, but I keep on coming and doing it anyway because it's important. I do better. There's a reason why I'm a writer. I do better when I write things sometimes, but whatever. And then when I see you all out in the community, I'm always super happy to see you all out there too. And if anyone ever needs help finding someone to brag about Daytona Beach, I will do that. I will be perfectly happy. I think our city's awesome. And earlier I said I'm probably not going to get a tattoo at my age, but I would maybe get one of those really corny love tattoos, but instead of saying like mom or something, it would say like Daytona Beach. And I wouldn't need a removal, like I wouldn't need a tattoo removal. Like, there wouldn't be like a regret night or anything like that. Earlier, when I walked in here tonight, I was wearing a mask because I was trying to protect myself and protect others in the indoor space. And not everybody thinks that masks are useful, but some of us think they're useful. And I know some people believe it, some people don't. But if people see me wearing a mask, I don't want people to think, oh my God, she must be sick. It's like, no, I just believe that it helps protect me and helps protect you. We all take a calculated risk. When we come into indoor spaces, we take a calculated risk. And when I was listening to the meeting in December via remotely, because I was trying to isolate before my trip up to see my family, I heard several people with congested sounding voices. It just is. It's winter. It's the season. So if we can manage to meet outdoors more, I think it would be great. But I know it's on my little wish list, but whatever. Thank you, Commissioner Strickland, for bringing up the Main Street's goal, because Main Street can be so fabulous. There needs to be so much stuff just packed onto there, and I'm so glad you guys had a happy New Year's Eve. If I hadn't been up with my family, I would have been there with you guys. And Mr. Ken Botts, I am a huge fan of the Ocean Deck, and thank you for your fantastic restaurant. I know whatever is going to work out is going to work out. I do think we should look into abolishing or reducing parking minimums. I think we should. I'm going to keep bringing up that topic for exploration, because there's a lot of good data and info on that. What else? Okay, that's it. And thank you all. Have a lovely evening. I appreciate you.
Likewise.
Our next speaker is Amy Pyle, and on deck is William Biddorf.
Amy Pyle, 136 South Grandview. Thank you for all of you for understanding that a surface lot is going to meet the needs that we need right now, and we can reevaluate in the future. So one of the things that I had suggested was the parking on South Grandview. And the reason the curb is yellow over there is because we were having a problem with people camping. There were vans pulling up and people sleeping there and things like that. Trash, like people would pull up and dump their trash out. So I would suggest metered, or one of those little things that you walk up to. You can do that side of Grandview. You can do this side of Grandview and allow residents to have a pass, because there are some apartments where there's a few people parked out front. But if you drive down there, like Paula, when you came to that street, you saw it was wide open, and that's all open parking. So let's use that and kind of get us through the lurch. So a couple weeks ago, I spoke to you about some lots on South Noble that had been suddenly devalued by the county. Here is a statement from the county. Quote, although originally approved with residential buildings, those were removed in the late 1980s, and the properties have been utilized as a parking lot for the last 35 years. The property classification codes were changed to reflect the current and historical use of the lots. The change has no effect on the legal uses, and therefore notification to the city is not necessary. End quote. This is a shame and resulted in a devaluation of the tax base in the CRA. This property has been illegally used for parking. It's grass lot, so there should be no parking, in defiance of city codes and ordinances for 35 years. It's a perfect example of why we should immediately evaluate how parking is being handled in the Main Street CRA. There's 4 types of parking in the CRA. Parking associated with a business, 2 licensed pay parking lots open to the public, event parking lots that are vacant most of the year, and unlicensed pop-up parking. There's a lot of crossover within these 3 categories, but I did spend about 30 minutes. I did a non-scientific parking study, and here's an illustration showing most of them. You see all that red? That's property only used during special events. It makes no sense to sacrifice valuable residential property to make more parking. So unless you plan to turn the entire CRA into a parking lot, there's plenty at the moment. It's just underutilized and poorly managed. So let's start by getting a handle on the properties in red and work toward making some of them legitimate year-round parking. So the Bike Week Task Force meets next Friday for Bike Week. Now is the perfect time to start announcing changes for Biketoberfest, so I'm asking if someone would please ask staff to do the following, a very simple step. Number 1, separate parking permits and RV camping out as a subset of the master plan and create new guidelines just for those categories, including maintenance standards and clarifying which properties are actually eligible. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is William Biddorf, and on deck is Marjorie Johnson.
You forgot your pen. You forgot your pen. I don't want to take your pen. was a good one. She had a good pen. I didn't want to take it. I think most importantly, you know, I had the honor to come in front of you all multiple times. But the thing is we have to remember is we got to protect the quality of life for our residents. And when I sit on the redevelopment board, the reason I voted against it was there was 2 residents that are really affected by this parking garage. And, you know, that's why I was against it. I've learned a lot from you, Mr. Mayor, because I've tried to do a lot of projects with East ISB that just didn't work, and I realized why they didn't work, because it really wasn't good for me or the community itself. Because whatever is good for our community as a whole is going to be good for the developer that comes in my opinion. And just like with me, I have 2 parking lots at 530 and 540 East ISB. I'm going to try to do light vehicle rental. Now, it's not in my zone, so of course I'm going to go in front and try to figure my zoning. I'm going to try to figure out how to do it because I get an older clientele, because I've changed the club to bingo, and an older clientele that I'm going to attract. And if they want to go to the beach, a 65, 75-year-old person is not going to be excited about walking to the beach. But I'm really doing a lot of fundraising, so that I created the Community Foundation, which was sort of inspired by you and you, Mayor Henry, and Mr. Strickland, our commissioner. And what I want to do with that is to raise money for things that's needed in the community. It could be books. It could be that one of our neighbors got their roof blown off, or they've got to get their carpet replaced because there was flooding. Just some little things like that. I would like to do fundraisers for things that are needed in the community. So I'd like to reach out to you and other leadership like yourself and figure out what's needed. And I pick one thing at a time, and I try to fix the little problems that I can help with. That's roughly about it. That's my New Year's resolution today. And I'm sorry I was out of line saying about your hair, but I had to give the comment because I couldn't help myself. And I miss everybody. I miss you all throughout the New Year's. I didn't go out very much. I worked a lot because I help people with addictions. And I was pretty much babysitting during New Year's Eve. But it was a great challenge. And the other thing I was going to mention, I got on the internet and I was researching, Mr. Fietcher, you do this mentorship program. That is like the best thing that I've ever seen anyone do. I appreciate you.
Awesome.
Our next speaker is Marjorie Johnson, and on deck is Tracy Remark.
Marjorie Johnson, Daytona Beach, Florida. Mayor Henry, all of you commissioners here, especially we had some problems at the last city commission meeting with you walking out the door when I got up to make my public comments, and Paula Reed, who will not be our commissioner next year, thank the Lord. That's a blessing to get her out of there. She has not been disrespectful. When people come to this podium, she's not supposed to be talking. We never had any problems in the past with our other commissioners that sat in that seat, and this is the worst that it's ever been. So when you turn your back on the residents, that's a bad thing. And I have your report card here tonight again. F, Paula Reed, you have been a complete and total failure. F for you too, Mayor Henry, for walking out of the meeting while I'm getting ready to make my comment after I am the one who got to advocate for you to even be here in City Hall with the special election. Norma Bland certainly did want you. Also, I like to say, I'm reading this statement here. It says, during this time, citizens allowed 3 minutes. Please be courteous and respectful of the views of others. Personal attacks on city commission staff, well, personal attacks on our residents is not going to be tolerated. You work for us. We don't work for you. As city manager, I'm disappointed because I got here and advocated for you to get this job, and the behavior since you got here has gotten terrible. I cannot believe people sitting here walking out of me, turning their back, disrespecting the resident. We never had this when Richie was here. You could call me and say, Margie, you need anything? Come in my office. Even the city manager who took away our freedom of speech in the meeting, you would always come and meet with me. We can't get a meeting with you, city manager, You can't get one with tertiary. You can't get one. So this is disgusting. And I hope that as we move into year 2024, that you're not here to try to tell the residents, we already know what we're supposed to do. I was just limelighted in the Daytona Times 2-page article. She speaks for those who can and won't. 30 people there praising me. Ken Strickler of Zone 2 said, yeah, she's always doing something to improve our community. I love her and wish her the best. We had Tony Severance of the Planning Board who made a statement. Oh, she will hold you accountable. Well, we're here tonight to hold you accountable. Stop being rude and unprofessional and respect our residents who are paying your salary. So I looked at this. You need to fix the flooding problem. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Tracy Remark, and on deck is Ted Hordecki.
Tracy Remark, 815 North Oleander Avenue, Daytona Beach, Florida. Last time I checked, Daytona Beach is a commission manager form of government. The commission determines policy direction for the city, and the manager and city staff see to the details, unless it appears we are dealing with the idea to build a new city hall. In 2020, it was city manager Jim Chisholm who made headlines in proposing that 2 key pieces of a possible development downtown on the old First Baptist lot would include a parking garage and a new city hall. The garage paid for with TIF money and the city hall by incurring debt with bonds. That was news to the director and chairperson of the Housing Authority, neither of whom had any idea they were to partner with the city and ante up money. And it was a surprise to the commission, especially those members who said they only heard details a mere 6 hours before they were to vote. They actually said no in an August 26th workshop 3 days after the story broke, a workshop for the Daytona Emerging Project, a private development where the developer was trying to get the city to partner in the garage only, no city hall. The price tag then was $20 million. Apparently, management staff is at it again, pursuing a new city hall complex without any policy direction from the commission, unless there's been a non-public meeting somewhere, sometime with the commission, because it takes a majority, even as a discussion item, to have gone forward with this, and that would be against Florida's Sunshine Law. And as the news article pointed out, neither the mayor nor 3 commissioners interviewed, a majority, were even aware staff was actively looking into this idea. The article also said there was an email stating staff could speak one-on-one with commissioners parallel to proposed property acquisitions, which if any policy were carried out based on one-on-one meetings, that would be illegal. Policy is a majority vote in the public, and now the price tag is $75 million. That's an increase of 375% from the price 3.5 years ago. Even given that construction inflation has gone through the roof since 2020, 37.7% since then, that would only be an extra $7.5 million, a far cry from an extra $55 million. The 11-story Brown & Brown headquarters was only $65 million. Staff is not the elected body. You are. You serve the citizens of Daytona Beach. They serve you. If a new city hall warrants discussion, put it on your agenda as a discussion item and see if a majority of you agree. Then workshop and give staff direction based on necessary reports outlining needs and costs. And get public input early and often, because we'd be the ones paying for it. Happy New Year. Thank you.
Happy New Year.
Our next speaker is Ted Hordecki, and on deck is Frederick Brown.
Hi, my name is Ted Hordecki, 113 Braddock Avenue, Daytona Beach. I finally recouped from the last meeting you guys had. I wanted to talk that night, but it was past my bedtime. So I thought I'd come back and just give you my opinion. I believe there were flawed arguments on both sides of the Silver Beach product. You know, the whole meeting, I saw flaws on both sides. My opinion is the developers, we're not going to get help from Tallahassee because the developers, the insurance companies, we're going to be, live local and all this other things. They're going to keep chipping away because they're organized. I was recently down on Beach Street and I saw a group of gentlemen by the yacht club, and they're all smiling and they had their to-go plates. If you're a member of the yacht club, you can go in there and have business meetings. Well, evidently the representatives for the Silver Beach, they were having a pep rally before the game. You go in there, you look at your videos, everybody, this is what we're gonna do, and rah, rah, rah. I'm all for development. And if anybody thinks they're gonna stop development, they're out of their mind. Development's coming, and it's not going to stop ever. So what I'd like to see is some benefit. I don't want the lawyers to work on it. I don't want the city staff to work on it. I want the commission to work on it. And the way I believe they can achieve this is through their words, their thoughts, their questions, and let it be known Daytona Beach has some problems. Number one, flooding. There's still people recouping from this, all this, and COVID money and ARCA funny and Uncle Joe. The money's gonna run out, and that's no doubt. I'd like to see, you don't have to write it down, but you let the developers know. You want something changed? Nothing says we love you like cash. We have a lot of projects we want. The flooding, affordable housing. I mean, we have a lot of issues. I want development. Let's put up a big sign. Welcome, everybody's welcome. We are going to put out the red carpet. We want your business. But we also need help in the community. And if you, like this gentleman that owns the Ocean Deck, now he's a gentleman. That's one of the straightest people I've ever heard in this thing come in here and says, look, I want to work with you and I want everybody to win. That's the way it should be, but Daytona needs help. We should get it from the developers.
Thank you, Ted. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Frederick Brown, and on deck is Holly Beth.
Frederick Brown, 1508 Crescent Ridge. Yeah, like Ted, I got kind of burned out at the last meeting, and I agree with him on several points. Flooding is still a major issue, no matter how many projects you approve in swamps, it's still going to be a problem. I'm saddened to see in the city manager's update that the study area is cut off 2 blocks south of where it should have been, and it's cut off on the east of the river. That's all part of it. Commissioner May should be very aware of the flooding in her area, in her business area. That isn't going to go away, and it's not in the study. That needs to be incorporated. So somewhere between now and the 17th, I hope you add it. For those of you who are interested in the growth of Daytona, and what a great place it is to visit, and I love the city, it's why I'm here. If you've never read the Chamber ad, it says 23 miles of iconic white sand beaches. They don't tell you it's only about 10 foot wide and only during low tide. There's a fix for all of this. I sat there and listened to these arguments on parking, and I agree. Putting parking garages and parking lots on beachside is a waste of best use of the property. I've been talking about this for several years now, and I begged and pleaded with each of the city council members. I only know of one that's actually watched the videos. I've had some more, unfortunately Matt's left now, but from the county commission. And that's the dunes of Catwick in Holland. I've been talking about the solution. There, what they did is they put bunkers that are parking garages that also double as flood retention centers, and they build natural beach on top of them, extending the beach a good quarter mile out, so that we would then have 23 miles of iconic white sand beaches. We also would be able to have our new hotels and tall buildings without shading the beach because the beach is further out. It would also take care of the flooding problems. But again, I just can't seem to get Daytona out of the 1950s mode. We're in a new decade now. We're in a new year. Please, I beg you, I would like to see the city of Catwick become a sister city. I know some of you traveled to Europe last year, went to Italy. I don't see that that's the answer. Holland has the same issue we have. They're on the beach, and they have to deal with beach erosion. They have to deal with flooding. What better place to have a sister city who has already answered these things back in 2016? Go look at the city, go look at the solutions. Please watch the videos I've tried to talk to you about numerous times, because it's an answer to parking, it's a answer to the beach problems, it's an answer to flooding, and it makes our city beautiful. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Holly Beckwith, and on deck is Ann Ruby.
Hello, everybody. Holly Beckwith, 1223 Ruger Place. Actually took a picture of my form so I can stay on it. And I found this. So if I get to talking loud, having an attitude, I can at least buffer it. I was going to call the manager, but I found a new friend today that has some of my best concerns at heart. But I wanted to ask specifically in Zone 2, 624 South Atlantic Avenue is a mental health facility. And for the last couple of months, people have been badgering my neighborhood, trying to make us look worse. When I realized that the new guy in town, I almost ran him over 3 times this week. He hadn't changed his pants in days, laying in the middle of the sidewalk here, there, and everywhere. And I'm wondering where he's coming from. Is he a maintenance guy at the Ocean Jewels? I have no idea. And I'm not taking a picture of him because he was laying somewhere I could see. But I wonder who owns that property, and as if there is any focus on, perhaps if it is the state of Florida, getting them to at least embrace the fact of doing something more significant for our community than to have it be what it is. And those people specifically do meander up and down the street, in the middle of the street, on the side of the street. Who knows? I mean, thankfully they stay out of my particular area, but I wonder if it's come up. Do we have a focus there? We have big goals. They're shiny. They're ridiculous, as the mayor noticed last time. But do we have any focus on helping those people find a better suited place so they're not like medicated, wandering around in all the streets?
So if I'm thinking correctly, it's the property across from Land Shark?
701 South.
Yeah.
No, it's not directly across from Land Shark.
But it's on the
Just
corner,
the
sort of.
northern side.
There are a lot of like cigarette butts kind of in the front where people smoke. They've got a big...
Well, they have like a little covered area, and when I'm on task to deliver pizza there, they want me to walk into the dark, and I go to the office.
I've actually visited the property. It's a mental health facility for people who have supervised care. It's a facility for both men and women, so it's a co-ed facility, which is kind of rare. I met with them last year. They're also involved with the church that's located 1 or 2 blocks away, who gives them extra care. They're a mental health facility. They can legally be there, and the residents are free to leave the facility. Some of them are so heavily medicated that they rarely leave the facility. So when you see them sitting outside, it's because that's most likely as far as they can actually go. It might not be something that's pleasant to the community, but it is a facility that has a license to be there. They have management. I visited the management. I went inside. I asked them, could they please clean up their outside areas? Could they please do a little renovation? And they were in the process of doing some of that at the time. But if anybody wants to stop by and visit and do a tour, they are more than welcome for you to drop by at any time.
The nurses are very nice. They are very nice, but I wonder if, as we talk about the best use for certain properties, whether it be across the street from my house, as I have to digest the idea of a 6-story parking garage, but yet at issue tonight is a 4-story one. It's just kind of an oxymoron repetitively, and I worry sometimes because those people and that particular crossing area is not lit well enough. Neither one of them are, like they do in the shores where they have the yellow lights that denote for everybody to stop, because I've seen people almost demolished by a car going 50 miles an hour, and the medicated ones move even slower. So I guess that's all the time. Oh, and if we were to have like a sister city, I was trying to embrace the humor from last time and saying that y'all possibly need Jesus. This whole town needs Jesus. And if we had a sister city, I would hope that it would be Nashville. One thing I noticed specifically that's different in Daytona in this particular area is our churches don't advertise on the television. We have no community support whatsoever. We got pamphlets everywhere, but
Our next speaker is Ann Ruby, and on deck is Sandy Murphy.
Ruby, 137 Park Avenue. I really liked the addition of, on the agenda with first readings where there was action, what's going to be allowed with the public, and I'm hoping we can do that on every first reading item, because I think that would be very helpful, so thank you. That's a good addition, thanks. You know, Rob Merrill mentioned it, used an interesting analogy when he was talking about this. He said, we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. But the thing is that he knew the bathwater was dirty from a year ago. The residents were clear. They don't want a garage and they don't want storage units. The residents were clear. And instead of cleaning up the bathwater, he's bringing you the baby in dirty bathwater a year later, and now he's going to ask you to vote on it. Now, if you approve that comp plan change, he can still build a parking garage. He can still build a parking garage with an amendment to his PD. The process would not be as arduous as what he's going through right now. But what I am asking is you do not pre-approve a parking garage. Not in 2 years, not in 5 years. We don't know what this very limited area is going to need or look like in 2 to 5 years. Amy has a great diagram. There are vacant lots and property parking all over the area. We need to get a handle on that before we pre-approve a parking garage as a single use for that lot. That lot is in too prominent a location to be wasted on a single use as a parking garage. And I don't care how pretty it is. The Renaissance Hotel has to have parking to survive. They needed that parking garage. They have to have it. This is an optional garage. This would be the city saying, yeah, this is the best use for this land. Make a parking garage. And that's not appropriate. It's just not appropriate. It's not appropriate now, and who knows, maybe in 5 years it will be appropriate. But let him come back, and it will not be as arduous as it has been so far. And his business can only get but so big and needs so much. So he doesn't have an unlimited capacity or need for parking, even though it might feel like it. And the other thing I think that's interesting is that Jenny has mentioned, let's not set suburban standards in our urban core, which is essentially what she's been saying tonight. And I think Mr. Botts is saying exactly that. He is willing, people are willing to park far away and walk to his restaurant. So I'd like to see that remembered when it comes to talking about the rec center. And I think the other thing this also proves is we need a trolley. We have got to have a trolley, and the city needs to light a fire under the county council to do that, because that is going to be huge in making the beachside process, Beach Street.
Can I say something?
Sure. Go ahead.
Oh. Can you hear me now? Okay. That diagram, that was funny, huh? Diagram that we were given from Amy Pyle. Could you have staff do a diagram, because that was not correct? I seen county property on there. I seen Hilton parking on there. I seen Teresa Doan's parking over there. I would like a professional one done for the commission, please.
Yes, we did. Staff is looking at that, and we will make sure to provide that to you to show all the different lots that are not city-owned or that may be personal.
Okay, thank you so much.
Might already be one. I saw it years and years ago.
Our next speaker is Sandy Murphy, and on deck is Ken Southall.
Good evening again, Sandy Murphy, 136 Park Avenue. Happy New Year. There are a couple of things I wanted to talk to you about tonight, things that have just been floating. The city manager should have an evaluation. He has been with us for some time now.
Yeah, that's true.
And we have not even seen a proposed format for an evaluation for the city manager, let alone have people. It has not been shared with us, with the public.
Oh, it's not?
I don't think,
Yeah. I don't think I did mine, but I don't think.
well, it would be nice to see it come out then, because
have
we
to have
haven't, the
public-
public hasn't been given any
Who was the
information on
person
that.
that we just email everybody who didn't turn it in to you? Because
So-
it's accurate. Just email the folks.
Okay, yeah, so maybe by the end of February.
Have sex in the evening.
I
Yeah.
think Sexton said people have turned up, but I'll have Sexton tomorrow. Letitia, make sure he sends it out to you.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so it's still in process, is
Yeah.
what I'm hearing. And the same for our affordable housing study and the outcomes from it. We know what we can do. We have no process for implementation. We have no deadlines given to staff for when you want to see a plan for implementation or what items you want them to look at specifically for implementation. And so it's just floating out there. And again, we have all these projects coming in, development projects, and we're missing our opportunities to tag that development with some affordable housing benefit. And it's gone on and on and on, and it really behooves you to set some deadline and make it stick, because it doesn't seem to be coming from the staff side, and you need to set that as policy. Another entirely unrelated thing, but I sat in on a bid meeting this morning for the city. And one thing that has struck me over and over and over is that we have these massive mailings to hundreds, literally hundreds of places for our RFPs, and we get one response, or we get two responses. This morning was one. In this entire state of Florida, we can only find one respondent for what appears to be a very extensive project, one that's important to the city. There's something wrong with our system. It's apparently not well targeted. We are not pursuing potential candidates. There is something wrong when we only get one or two bids for a city of this size, for a project of that magnitude. And I would hope that you would direct staff to look into that and make some recommendations for how to improve that process, because it's deeply in need of improvement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our final speaker tonight is Ken Southall.
I'm getting old. But anyway, I'm not here to beat up on anyone, but y'all are our representatives. And this past month, I was thinking, how do y'all really feel about the people that you represent? Are you really looking at their issues, and how do you address that?
No.
And when I look at Paula, you have to, if you're going to represent us, you got to be able to take what the people are telling you and not turn your back. No, I'm just saying. I'm just saying you representing us.
It's out of order, Mayor.
Oh, I'm talking to everybody. I'm not just her, but you can't turn your back on people, because if you turn your back on her, you turn your back on me. And I may not agree with what she's saying, but what she's saying is what she feels. And at the same time, she's not the only one feel this way. So listen at what's being said and be man enough to take it. And ask yourself, is any part of what the people are saying is true? If it's true, how do you change it? What I have to do to change that? And be able to, if I can look the mirror in his eye and he can look me now, he got a sense of what I'm saying. He can feel what I'm saying. But if you got your back turned to me, no matter, you can't see what's coming, and I can't see what's coming. I'm angry. You angry. I'm not listening to you, and you're not listening to me. So always, if I'm representing, just like a family, we all got to be a family. We all got a part to play. Some of us going to be whatever, and others going to be. But at some point, we have to change for the best and make our interests everybody's interests. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was our final speaker for tonight.
Okay. Happy New Year to one and all. Good night. Daytona Beach.